The NHS must learn from Friday's cyber attack and upgrade its IT systems, the Home Secretary has said. Amber Rudd told the BBC the services of 45 NHS organisations in England and Scotland had been disrupted amid a global attack that affected organisations across the world. She stressed there was no evidence patient data had been compromised. The head of the UK's cybersecurity agency said experts were working round the clock to restore NHS systems. Kieran Martin, who leads the National Cybersecurity Centre, part of GCHQ, said it was doing everything in our power to get vital services back up and running. He said that the anonymous nature of cybercrimes means it will take time to understand how, and by whom, it was done. The Government Emergency Cobra Committee is meeting this afternoon to discuss the attack. Tens of thousands of computers were injected worldwide in 99 countries on Friday, in what Europol described as an unprecedented attack. The Nissan car plant in Sunderland was among global firms targeted, but the firm said there had been no major impact on its business at its site on Wearside. French carmaker Renault and telecoms giant Telefonica, which owns the O2 network, were also affected. The attack on the NHS has left some hospitals and GPs unable to access patient data, after their computers were locked by a ransomware program demanding a payment worth £230. Hospitals across the UK are cancelling operations and ambulances have been diverted from hospitals in some areas. Experts say one potential security issue is that many organisations still use out-of-date operating systems such as Windows XP. Data obtained by software firm Citrix under Freedom of Information rules in December suggested this was the case in up to 90% of NHS trusts, but NHS Digital says it is a much smaller number. Ms. Rudd accepted Windows XP was not a good platform for keeping data secure. She told Sky News that the Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt had already instructed NHS trusts not to use the 2001 operating system. I would expect NHS trusts to learn from this and to make sure that they do upgrade, she said. Shadow Health Secretary Jonathan Ashworth added that he had written to Mr. Hunt, saying the public had a right to know exactly what the government would do to ensure such an attack was never repeated again. Responding, Ms. Rudd said the government had doubled spending on cybersecurity to £1.9 billion between 2016 and 2021. Brian Lord, the former Director for Intelligence and Cyber Operations at GCHQ, told BBC's Newsnight that the NHS was particularly vulnerable to such attacks because of its aging IT systems and complex interconnectivity. In response to the global attack, Microsoft said it had rolled out a free security update to Windows XP, Windows 8, and Windows Server 2003 to protect their customers. NHS England said patients needing emergency treatment on Saturday should go to A&E or access emergency services as they normally would. But some trusts have asked people not to attend unless it is urgent. London's Barts Health NHS Trust, the largest trust in the country, cancelled all outpatient appointments at its 5 hospitals on Saturday. The NHS in Wales and Northern Ireland has not been affected. Ms. Rudd told BBC Breakfast she could not confirm all NHS files had been backed up. I hope the answer is yes. Those are the instructions that everybody has received in the past. We will find out over the next few days if there are any holes in that. She added, there may be lessons to learn from this, but the most important thing now is to disrupt the attack. Ron Grimshaw, 80, was halfway through an MRI scan to test for prostate cancer at Lister Hospital in Stevenage, Hertfordshire, when staff became aware of the attack. I got there at 11 a.m., went through the usual formalities. Got my gown on, they put a feed into my wrist to send dye around my bloodstream. I was put in the scanner for 10 minutes and then I was pulled out again. The nurses were saying something about a cyber attack, meaning their systems were down. They weren't sure when it was going to start again, so I waited for a bit. But it never happened and I went home. I was meant to have a chest X-ray as well and that was cancelled. I gave them my mobile number and they said they'd ring me back telling me when to come in. You've got to sympathize with the nurses as they will have to work extra hours. It was unbelievable. You don't expect to go to hospital in the middle of a cyber attack. Damn nuisance. Many jobs can be done using software everyone can buy, but some businesses need programs that perform very specific jobs, so they build their own. For example, a broadcaster might need specialist software to track satellite feeds coming into a newsroom, or a hospital might need custom-built tools to analyze X-ray images. Developing niche software can be very expensive. Programming, testing, maintenance and continued development all adds up. Then along comes a new version of Windows, and the software isn't compatible. Companies face the cost of upgrading computers and operating system licenses, as well as rebuilding their software from scratch. So, some choose to keep running the old version of Windows instead. In some businesses, that's not a huge risk, but in a hospital the stakes are higher. The ransomware used in the attack is called WannaCry and attacks Windows operating systems. It encrypts files on a user's computer, blocking them from view, before demanding money, via an on-screen message, to access them again. The virus is usually covertly installed onto computers by hiding within emails containing links, which users are tricked into opening. Some experts say the attackers used a weakness in Microsoft systems, which is known to the U.S. National Security Agency as Eternal Blue. A cybersecurity researcher tweeting as @MalwareTeshBlog has claimed to have found a way to slow down the spread of the virus after registering a domain name hidden in the malware. They said that the malware makes a request to a domain name, but if it is live the malware stops spreading. A security update, or patch, was released by Microsoft in March to protect against the virus, but it appears many organizations have not applied the patch, or may still be using outdated systems like Windows XP. The NHS must learn from Friday's cyber attack and upgrade its IT systems, the Home Secretary has said. Amber Rudd told the BBC the services of some 45 NHS organisations in England and Scotland had been disrupted in the global attack that affected organisations in 100 countries. She stressed there was no evidence that patient data had been accessed. NHS trusts have been urged by the Home Secretary to upgrade their computer systems as the health service faces a weekend of chaos after a debilitating cyber attack prompted hospitals to cancel and delay treatment for patients across the country on Friday. Amber Rudd said on Saturday that investigators still do not know where the attack came from, but that it wasn't targeted at the NHS. The National Cybersecurity Centre, NCSC, has said it was part of a set of global cyber attacks against thousands of organizations and individuals in dozens of countries as it launched a major operation in response. The Home Secretary said that patient data is secure and that no patient data has been accessed or transferred in any way. At least 30 health service organizations in England and Scotland were infiltrated by the ransomware, while many others shut down servers as a precautionary measure, bringing added disruption yesterday afternoon. Speaking to BBC's Radio 4's Today programme, Rudd said there will be lessons to learn, one of which is why certain regions were affected and others were not. The Tory minister queried whether the breach happened because people in certain areas are following good advice and downloading antivirus software. It has been reported that 90% of NHS hospitals are still using Windows XP. Experts have suggested that the 2001 operating system has made the NHS vulnerable to cyber attacks. Rudd agreed that Windows XP is not as secure as modern platforms and urged trusts to upgrade their software. Cybersecurity is a huge industry and it is an area where we can all do better to protect our businesses and our personal information, Rudd said. I would expect NHS trusts to learn from this and to make sure that they do upgrade. Despite the huge security breach, the Home Secretary maintained that the UK are global leaders in cybersecurity. She said, We do lead the world in cybersecurity, but it doesn't mean that we're not vulnerable to attacks from people that want to attack us and use the internet and cyber attacks as a vehicle for doing so. But let's look at what has actually happened over the past 24 hours. So far, all we have seen is patients inconvenienced, so hospitals, so doctors making changes to their daily life. But the fact is that no patient data has yet been accessed, and the NHS are brilliantly managing to weave through this disruption.